Welcome to Toastmaster Time. My name is Mimi Park, and our show is presented by Toastmasters International, a nonprofit organization dedicated to teaching people how to speak and communicate more effectively. In tonight's show, we're going to tell you all about our upcoming spring conference on May 2nd in Napa. Twice a year, Toastmasters has a district conference with keynote speakers, educational workshops, and speech contests. We've talked about speech contests before in our other shows, and we thought it would be interesting to actually show you a speech that someone did at a contest, so you know what kind of speeches people actually do at contests. And then we're actually going to take you on location so you can actually see a speech contest and maybe even guess for yourself who the winner was. But first, if you'd like to know more about our district conference or more about Toastmasters, we'll be showing an 800 number at the end of the show. So get ready at the end of the show to write it down. And now we're ready for our first speaker. Our first speaker is Cassandra Cockrell. Cassandra.
Hi, Mimi.
Hi. Cassandra, even though she's only been a Toastmaster for 3 years, has been a very active member of Toastmasters. She just was honored with the title of Area Governor of the Year. And just last year, she started and mentored 5 brand new Toastmaster clubs. And if that's not enough, she was just in our division contest where she did the same speech she's going to be doing for us tonight. And the title of the speech is TikTok. Cassandra.
Thank you, Mimi.
Thank you.
We made it! No matter where you came from or how you got here, we've all made it. This place, this moment. 17 months, 3 days, 3 hours, and 42 minutes from the year 2000. Tick-tock, ladies and gentlemen. Tick-tock. For centuries, people have been wondering what would happen at this amazing moment. In just an instant, we'll end a second, a minute, an hour, a day, a month, a year, a decade, a century. 1,000-year period, we'll drop the 19 from the calendar, pick up the 20, and we'll start a whole new millennium. This has only happened once before in the entire history of our calendar. Now, I'm not saying at that auspicious moment we'll all just rip off our earthly jeans and t-shirts and put on spacesuits. And I'm hoping that the only lights that I see in the sky are those from fireworks that we've planned. Still, people all over the world are beginning to think about, talk about, and share their dreams for this new time. In fact, individuals, organizations, companies, and nations are planning projects to be complete in the year 2000. For instance, there's an organization called the Global Peace 2000 Network. Now, they've been planning for the last 10 years for an International Day of Peace. Let me say that again. They've been planning for 10 years for one day of peace. So call me an overachiever, but I don't understand, why does that take 10 years? And I realize that it, of course, doesn't take 10 years. But they're using the year 2000 as a deadline because they know something that you and I also know. We as human beings are much better with deadlines than we are with goals. So if it helps us to achieve something that's very important, I'm just glad that there's a goal or a deadline that they can use for that. I do want higher standards around here, though, and it reminds me of something else, that when I want higher standards on a global level, I have to be willing to accept those higher standards for myself personally first. And it's got me thinking about my standards. Here's what I've discovered. How we spend our days is how we live our lives. So think about it. Next time you're in your crummiest outfit, scrounging for change in your dirty car as you drive through at McDonald's, think about it. No, really think about it. In fact, anytime you find yourself doing a job that's not fulfilling to you, or living someplace that you don't love, or working somewhere that you're not inspired, think about it. Because you can change your life. You can change it right now. You may want to go back to school and finish a degree. Perhaps you'd like to buy a home. Maybe you'd like terrific health and fitness. I know I would. I think there are things for all of us that we want, things that don't just take a minute. They take longer than a week, but things that, if done, will add tremendous quality to our lives. We can all do those things. We can claim them for ourselves, and if we schedule to have them in place, complete in our lives, by December 31st, 1999, we can do that. We've got 17 months. That's a long time. Hey, in 17 months, even I could have a great body. I could have world-class thighs in 17 months. And so could you. Now, does it matter on a global level whether any of us accomplish these things for ourselves personally? I think it does. I think if you decide that you're going to send your child to college and do all the financial planning that takes, you're likely to be an active, productive member of this economy. And if you decide that you're going to build that dream home, you're likely to check out the issues on things like where the power plant is built and what's happening with trash collection. Maybe you'll vote. I think that if you want outstanding health and fitness, you'll change your life in ways that will benefit those around you, as all of these things do. They make us stronger and healthier people and families, better communities, and somehow the world is a bit nicer because we've done these things ourselves. So I'm asking all of you to join with me in what I'm calling my Millennium Adventure, to claim for yourselves the biggest dreams you can imagine, and these may even be things that you're not sure you can actually accomplish, but if done, will add tremendous value to your lives. And schedule to have those things complete in the year 2000. This actually started for me a couple of years ago. It was New Year's Eve. I was on the phone with a friend of mine, and she was telling me what the experts say about how we should spend New Year's Day. They say that however you'd like the new year to go, spend New Year's Day that way. For most of us, that means with nice new clothes on, with crisp dollar bills in our pocket, preferably large denominations, eating wonderful food, spending time with people we really like, and generally having goodwill and laughter and love in our lives. Well, as I was listening to my friend, I realized that I had on these tattered old jeans and a big old sweatshirt with a huge coffee stain on it. My hair was going every which direction, and I realized that I was going to need to do some work on myself in order to start the new year looking and feeling terrific. Makes sense, right? You can't start the new year in excellent financial condition if you end December 31st broke. It's that way for all of us. And so we have the opportunity now to start putting things in place so that our lives are in the condition that we'd love for them to be as we spend the next 1,000 years. So, I'm telling you that if you'll just do this, choose those really important dreams for yourself and schedule them to be done by December 31st, there's a much better opportunity than there has ever been before, and probably better than there will ever be again, for you to actually achieve these things. And here's why. Because from the time I finish tonight until the year 2000, every time you turn around, you're going to be hearing about it. The turn of the century, the new millennium, the year 2000, and every time you hear this, it will remind you that you're on path to a destination that is vitally important to you. And it'll help keep you on track. At the same time, millions of people around the world are doing just what we're doing tonight. They're beginning to think about it and talk about it, to share their dreams, and to strengthen each other's resolve. Their momentum will help you move forward, and your resolve will spur them on. So, enough with the 90s. Let's get on to the really big show. Clocks all over the world are ticking down the seconds until you and I get to celebrate the achievement of our greatest dreams. It's such an important date, ladies and gentlemen. Don't be late. Tick-tock,
Thank you, Cassandra. Wow. Was that great or what? Did that inspire you to plan your goals, get you excited about achieving them by the year 2000? Boy, it did me.
I'm excited about it.
I'm excited. I want to get out there and do a whole bunch of fantastic things. What kind of things would you like to do? Something really exciting? I bet. Well, let's hear more about Cassandra. Cassandra, you were telling me some interesting things about why you joined Toastmasters. Could you share that with us?
I'd be delighted to. Throughout my career, I've always done lots of community service and found that professionally and personally, I was asked to do emceeing of meetings or present awards, and I was always so nervous. I needed to make sure that I had the speaking skills that would enable me to feel comfortable in those situations. Toastmasters has definitely not only taught me the skills, but because I get asked to do impromptu, that is off-the-cuff speaking so often, I've really improved my confidence as well.
That's fantastic. And Cassandra is actually going to be presenting one of our educational workshops at our spring conference. Could you share that with us?
Absolutely, Mimi. Actually, I'm co-presenting with Michelle Carlucci, a topic, the female perspective. It's for women and anyone who wants to or has to communicate with them. So whether you already have a female perspective or you'd like to understand that female perspective, this is going to be an outstanding workshop, definitely not to be missed.
Well, I will definitely be there.
Good. We're looking forward to seeing you.
Yes, I'm looking forward to seeing you too.
Thank you.
You so much. Wow, was that interesting? And one thing that Cassandra had mentioned is that Toastmasters has helped her with learning how to speak impromptu. And that's what we're going to go into next. We're actually going to take you on location to the Fremont Library where we held our Division Table Topics contest. Now, for those of you who don't know what Table Topics is, that's a portion of our Toastmasters meetings where we actually invite people up and then we ask them to speak about a subject that they had no idea they were going to be asked to speak about. And they have 2 minutes to speak about that subject. It is great to learn how to think on your feet because you never know when someone's going to strike up a conversation with you and you're going to have to look witty and knowledgeable because that first impression can really count. Well, what we actually do in our Table Topics contests is we have 3 contestants, and we ask them all to leave the room. We escort them out of the room, and then we show all of the audience members in the room a phrase. Usually it's only a 3-word phrase. And in the case of our Table Topics contest tonight, the phrase was, "the best advice." And once all of the Table Topics contestants are escorted out of the room, they don't see the phrase, and we show it to all of the people in the audience so they know what the phrase is. We actually take the phrase and we put it on a lectern. And we ask each of the contestants to come in one by one, and they come in to the lectern, they look down at the phrase for the very first time, and instantly they think up a 2-minute speech about that phrase. So, are we ready? As you're watching the Table Topics contest tonight, see if you can decide who the winner is. Our division contest at the Fremont Library. We are doing our Table Topics contest now, and our contestants have just been escorted out of the room. The subject they're going to be speaking about is this. Can everyone see? Everyone see it? Anyone not see it? Okay, good. That's half the fun. Our first contestant will be Jennifer Schway. Would someone please get our Sergeant in Dark soap? Jennifer Schway.
Tonight, I want to give you all a piece of advice. Good evening, Toastmaster. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters. And good evening, guests. Tonight, I would like to give you a piece of advice. And that piece of advice is that you should follow your heart and follow your dreams. I want to start out tonight by telling you a story of a friend of mine. My friend lives back in Wisconsin, where I'm from. And for the last 2 years, he has talked about moving to California. He calls me every couple weeks and tells me how he's just that much closer to moving. And first he told me that it was a financial issue. He had too much debt, he wasn't being able to move, he set all these goals for himself, he did his whole index card project and said, this is what I need to do to move to California. And he said, I need to save $3,000, I need to achieve this in my job, da-da-da-da-da. And he went on and on and on and set all these goals for himself. However, he hasn't followed his heart. He hasn't taken that next step. He isn't here. And contrary to him, I set those same or very similar goals, and I made that move, and I followed my heart. Because I knew that this is where I wanted to be. Even though it was a difficult move, I had to move 2,000 miles away from home, and set up all new friends, tried a whole different job. I'm far away from my family. I found that it was a very good move for me. I followed my heart, and I basically set the goals and achieved them. And so tonight, that's what I want you to all think about. I want you to all to think about what is important to you and how can you get there. And that can either mean something that you need to do in personal relationships, that could have to do with something at work. It could have to do with a big move or a big transition. But basically what I'm saying is that you should set goals for yourself. You should think about what's important. And finally, you should make that move and finally achieve them. Thank you very much.
Our next Table Topics contestant will be Hal McLaughlin.
Best advice I ever got was from my mom. She told me 3 things. She said, always look your best. Always do your best. And always hope for the best. She was quite a lady, my mom. And although I must admit that I don't always look my best, I certainly feel like I look my best. At least I hope so. As far as doing my best, that was perhaps the best advice of the 3, because no one can ask more of you than doing whatever you can do. And you can't feel bad about doing less because you've done all you can do. So if other people can handle it better than you, hooray for them. But as long as you do your best, that is the best. And the 3rd thing is hope for the best. When you have the idea that things are going to turn out okay, what do you know? A lot of times they really do. So that is the best advice I ever got. Do your best, look your best, and hope for the best. Madam Toastmaster.
Our last Table Topics contestant will be Mike Najjar.
All the Toastmasters, honored guests, the best advice. Isn't that wonderful? A lot of people are good in giving advice, but as for me, I'd rather take it than give it. But the thing is, giving the best advice that I got was when I got married. My father told me, marriage is a give and take kind of a relationship. You cannot just take and keep on taking. You have to give. So my father was right in a way, because my marriage lasted for 23 years now, and we're still going strong. And there's no problems like our poor president has. Because I always stick to one and only one woman. And that's the way how to be able to survive a marriage. And that's the best advice that I got, and probably the best advice again that I could give to my son when he gets married. Madam Toastmaster.
Did you guess who won? Well, the winner was Hal McLaughlin. He's the one who recited the best advice his mother ever gave him was to look your best, do your best, and hope for the best. How many of you guessed that? Well, that's good. Well, Hal couldn't be with us tonight, but we do have Alan Zorister here to give you some pointers on how to speak impromptu. Alan.
Hello, Mimi. You know, impromptu speaking, we've talked about in Toastmasters doing prepared speeches, as we saw Cassandra. Mm-hmm. But the impromptu speaking, I think, is the one that's the most challenging and the most fun. And how do you wind up, doing this? Well, part of it is constantly learning, looking at the paper, listening to the radio, what's on the news, what's local, what's international. Because it's interesting, when you go to your meetings, mm-hmm. all of a sudden, somebody may ask you a question. Mm-hmm. What about the 49ers yesterday?
Right.
And you go, I don't know. Or, did you hear what the latest thing about Clinton? Mm-hmm. Well, you have to be on top of it.
That's
and
true.
It's fun.
Yeah.
But we're talking about Toastmasters, and I'll take a little bit of this, how it affects into your personal life. How many of you have been out on a job interview? Mm-hmm. All of us. Have you ever had one of those interviewers all of a sudden say, Mimi, what do you think about? And a subject has nothing to do with your work or your experience. All of a sudden you can go blank. How does the interview go? Via table topics, learning to think on your feet, learning and reading the various subjects mm-hmm. that are abound. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden you can take just about any question, take control of the conversation, and sound like you are really on top of the world.
Okay.
And it's a fun part.
Well, that sounds great. That inspired me to read all of the newspapers, even the sports section.
Yeah, even the sports section.
Yeah, I'd rather just ask someone else. They can fill me in on the details.
Okay, well, thank you, Mimi.
Thank you, Alan. Okay. And the district conference would not be complete without a wonderful keynote speaker. And here to tell us all about our keynote speaker and other things about our conference is our own Kent McKinney.
Oh, hello.
Kent.
How do you do?
And it turns out that Kent has actually taken on the challenge to be the chairperson for our entire district conference. So Kent, tell us all about our keynote speaker.
Wow, thank you, Mimi. I appreciate that. Yes, our keynote speaker for our spring conference is going to be James McCormick. Now, I don't know if anybody out here has heard of James, but James McCormick, he is used to jumping out of good airplanes from not 17,000 feet, but at 30,000 feet. He jumps at 30,000 feet with oxygen and comes and overcomes all these odds. He jumps into the void that we ourselves find ourselves in on a daily basis, whether we're going to take a job change, whether or not we want to raise, or whether we're going to go up to our boss and say, listen, I need a job change, I want to raise. Where are you going to find? He has got 4 techniques that he uses to help you overcome those odds. And he'll intertwine them into his speech, and this will be a life experience where you will be able to overcome those fears and become successful in your own life. And that is how it's going to be done with James McCormick.
Great, Kent. And tell me one other thing. Where, when, and how much for the district conference?
Of course. It is going to be held in Napa, known as the Chardonnay Golf Course. And it's going to be at 7 o'clock. It'll start 7 to 8 on Saturday, May 2nd.
In the morning.
In the morning. We start early because it's going to be a dynamic event. And the cost at the door is $60. But if you pay today, it's $55. And it's going to be a great time. You're going to meet a lot of great people. You'll bring in the camaraderie, and there'll be a lot of great events taking place.
Oh, and you also get, what is it, a buffet breakfast and lunch.
A gourmet
also.
lunch.
Gourmet lunch.
Yes, at the golf course.
In the wine country. So that sounds like lots of fun. I'm looking forward to being there, and we're going to tell you all about it once we get back. So maybe we'll even have some of the speakers who won the contest to be our guests on Toastmaster Time. We had an absolutely wonderful time with you tonight, and if you'd like to learn more about Toastmasters or more about the district conference, be sure to get ready to write down the 800 number that's going to be appearing on the screen in just a few minutes, and come visit one of our clubs. We'd love to see you. And you could even try your hand at table topics if you feel like doing that. And in the famous words of our table topics champion, look your best, be your best, and hope for your best. Have a wonderful evening, and good night.
Oh, good. Hey, gentlemen.
Thank you.